Hey, this is Simeon from PraiseTracks.com. What if we had a time machine that could take us back so that we could play the classical instruments of the past? Stay tuned as we take a look at the 1738 German harpsichord. Okay, we're back. My wife and I and some dear friends went on a trip to New York City. It was like a once-in-a-lifetime experience, especially around Christmas time. So we went to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and they had a musical instrument section in the museum where they had these classical instruments, these very old and rare instruments, and they actually say that they have the oldest functioning pianoforte in the world, and I think it was around 1720. The only problem is that they had a plexiglass cover over the keys. No way they were going to let you play that. So fast forward to today. So Realsamples has partnered with the National Museum of Germany. It is the 1738 harpsichord, this beautiful new instrument for HALion and HALion Sonic, and even the free HALion SE player. And we're going to take a look at that. When you go to the load section, it's going to come up in its own category here in the instrument browser. So let's just dive in a little bit deeper. Okay, so here is the interface, and I've kind of switched it to performance mode so we can take a closer look at all the details here. Basically, the way that a harpsichord works, it plucks the strings. The main feature of this harpsichord instrument is the two stops included. Now, it says front 8-foot stop and rear 8-foot stop. Now, the strings aren't 8 foot, but 8 foot is in reference to like pipe organ, pipe lengths. And basically, it's like an octave. Like on a keyboard, we have like C1, C2, C4. So we have 8 foot, 16 foot would be an octave lower, 4 foot would be an octave higher. So basically, the 8 foot is kind of like that natural middle octave of notes. You have two sets of strings in this harpsichord, and so what it allows you to do, they've actually included 3 sample sets. So you have a sample set for the front 8-foot stop, and then you have another set of samples for the rear 8-foot stop, and then they went ahead and gave us a third sample set with both stops combined. So we're not stacking the stops together, it's actually a third discrete sample set because the harmonics that you get with playing both together, and that's what we're going to do here. So let's just, I've got the front 8-foot stop loaded here, and let's just take a listen. Let's go ahead and turn on the rear 8-foot stop because you've got both strings available and you can switch in between them. And so this is the rear 8-foot stop, so the second set of strings. And now let's listen to both of them together, the front and the rear 8-foot stops. Yes, you can hear how that just really opens it up some more. And the fact that they give you 3 different sample sets just make it really versatile. You know, I get pulled into an instrument, and this just is an amazing experience, you know, when you're imagining sitting behind this 1738 harpsichord, over 200 years old. Okay, yeah, so we're way over the 200-year-old mark. You can kind of hear a little interesting thing going on, and it is probably due to the tuning, the temperament. So we can switch between an equal temperament or the velati temperament. It's just a little different tuning. And I think it adds a little more character and a little more depth. And I actually prefer using that velati temperament over the equal temperament. So one other feature that we have is the pitch control. You know, speaking about temperament, the tunings back then when this harpsichord was originally built, this was sampled at 392. It was pitch shifted up to 440, but we can adjust the pitch here. So the default setting is 440, and then we can take it all the way back to 392. This is the original pitch that it was sampled at. So that's a really different sound when you are playing it at the original sampled tuning. So the piano uses a hammer to strike the note, and you get the pianoforte effect, where you get the difference between the loud and the soft, the very soft notes and the very loud notes, depending on how hard you play the instrument. Now, a harpsichord works totally differently. The strings are plucked, and that makes it different because you don't get necessarily that dynamic range. So what Realsamples has done, they've given us 8 round robins of note on and 4 round robins of note off. So when we release those keys, it's gonna create something fresh and new. It's gonna rotate through those round robins to give it more realism and dynamic, instead of just having one note just played all the time, every time you hit a key. That's been one of the downfalls of a lot of harpsichord libraries, and almost the harpsichord has been kind of like almost a throwaway type of sound. Well, let's just throw a harpsichord in there, blah, blah, blah. And the thing is, you don't know what you're missing with all those little in-between things. So let's take a look at what they've done differently here. So I'm going to turn on the front stop. I'm going to turn the decay all the way up, and let's take a listen to the notes. And I went ahead and turned the reverb off as well, so we can just hear the natural sound of the harpsichord as best as we can. So this is the decay all the way up. So it allows that note to completely ring out. So now let's dial it back a little bit. So it's more staccato. So that note is cut off. Now, if we turn it all the way down, you're going to just be able to hear the release samples. Now, you're going to have to listen real close, but what happens is that there are 8 round robins, and you get a different release and reset of that of the plectrum. Also, the front and 8-foot stops, the strings are plucked in a different location, so that's what adds to the effect and to the sound of this harpsichord. So this is the front 8-foot stop with the decay off, so we can hear the releases. So you can hear that you hear them cycling through all those releases. And so when it's in the context of the actual instrument, it adds that little subtleness about it that just makes it sound more real. When you're playing that harpsichord and it's all the same note, it's all the same velocity, it's all the same tone, then it's that machine gun effect, and it just takes you right out of the experience. So I'm so glad that they were able to do that. So now let's take a listen to the rear 8-foot stop and just listen to those release samples really quickly. Yeah, it's really cool. And the rear stop just kind of sounds a little beefier to me. And it's just those little touches that make it alive. So one of the things that I almost missed was the effects section. Now the effects section, you've got to look down here at the logo, the German National Museum logo, and click on Master Effects. And here opens up a control panel where you have an EQ and you have a nice reverb. So here is the that's without the reverb. And now let's turn the reverb on. It just adds a nice richness to that. And then we have, you can have chamber, you have studio. And chamber. I've been using chamber a lot when I've been working with this because it just gives you that nice little close, intimate sound with some neat reflections. It's just really cool. And then you have some delays, the decay, and stereo width, the size of the room, and then you can blend that. You can blend the reverb. You know, create your own patches and save those as a user preset. And so when you put both of the stops together, that's where you're going to get a really nice, rich tone. So let's just take another listen at the two stops combined. And I think it's kind of funny. I say, you know, I'm not a harpsichord player, but I play one on YouTube. And this journey has really allowed me to experience and learn more about classical harpsichord music. I wanted to kind of give us an idea of what this harpsichord would sound like using maybe one of the Bach arrangements or a couple of Bach arrangements. So I went online and I found a gentleman had compiled all of these beautiful Bach harpsichord and ensemble concerto MIDI files. So when you pull a general MIDI file into Cubase, it automatically assigns HALion Sonic SE as like the general MIDI player. And so it pulled the harpsichord up, of course. And so what I did, I recorded it with the general MIDI harpsichord, and then I switched out the 1738. So we're going to take a listen. I'm going to switch back and forth between the two. I think this is going to be really interesting. Okay, I mean, really, you can absolutely hear that difference and the space and the depth, and then the realism in how, you know, having those additional round robins and releases and different things, the different recording techniques really makes such a huge difference. I hope you've enjoyed taking a look at this beautiful instrument, and all the information is going to be down below. And again, this is Simeon from PraiseTracks.com. I want to thank Steinberg and Realsamples for bringing us just a piece of history that we can put our hands on. And thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon.